Hello and welcome to another episode of the Real Estate Investing Club. I'm your host, Gabe Peterson, and this is the place investors go to gain actionable advice, learn about current market trends, and hear war stories from other professional investors out there in the field today. Before we get started, I have two quick housekeeping items for you. First, if you like this episode, we would very much appreciate a like, subscribe, and share. It is the best way to support the show and keep it running far into the future. Second, if you're a new investor looking to get started in real estate or an experienced investor looking to take your investing to the next level, I've created an ebook just for you that will cover how to find deals that are actually deals, how to finance those deals with little to no money down, and how to exit those deals for maximum value. On top of that, I throw in an insane amount of free bonuses that you'll have access to once you buy the ebook. All I charge is our admin costs to keep this show running. So if you're serious about real estate investing and want to create both active and passive income as an investor, head on over to the website at therealestateinvestingclub.com and click on the button that says get the ebook in the upper right-hand corner to grab yourself a copy. With that said, let's dive right in. Today we have a very special guest with us, ready to drop some investor knowledge on you. So buckle up, grab your pen and paper, and enjoy the ride. All right. Welcome back to another episode of the Real Estate Investing Club. Today we have Alex Jarbo with us from, oh man, I wrote it in the wrong spot. There we go. Sargon Investments and his YouTube channel, Alex Builds. I'm super excited to jump into this. Alex's his niche is short-term rentals, but I know we've had a few short-term rental guys on here. Alex is different because he actually develops them himself. He doesn't buy. I mean, I'm sure you do a few of this, but his main his bread and butter is development. So I am excited to jump into this. Alex, thank you very much for hopping on.
Oh, thanks for having me on, man.
Absolutely. I told you before we got on here, we like to start with stories. We like to hear how people got into real estate in the first place. So I'm sure you got a good one. Why don't you take us back to the beginning? How'd you get started in real estate?
Yeah, so I originally served in the Marine Corps for 4.5 years, and about a year before my enlistment was about to end, I had decided that I didn't want to re-enlist. So I just started looking into different things I can get into. I was on the tail end of a bachelor's degree, but it was just a general business degree, so I didn't know where that was going to take me. So I just started reading up on different investing classes, crypto, stock market, real estate. Real estate caught my eye because I appreciated the control you could have over it. So got into real estate, books, Bigger Pockets books, and just started reading everything I can. Multifamily. At that time, there weren't really too many self-storage books, but multifamily, flipping, house books, and joined a flipping mentorship when I was still in the military. And when I realized the person who had run that flipping mentorship, all of his long-term assets outside of were tied up in short-term rentals. This was back in 2015 or 16. Yeah, 2015. And that immediately caught my attention over just flipping houses. I understand it's nice to have that quick buck, but I was truly looking to build something long-term. So he helped me actually choose the market that I'm currently in, which is Western North Carolina, Asheville, North Carolina. And I moved here
living there before you got into real estate.
No, I'm originally from Detroit, Michigan.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And so I moved here the day I got out of the Marine Corps. I had some stuff set up like an apartment and everything, but yeah, I got my real estate license when I moved here. It took about 3-ish months. And I just started, I did that just to understand. I didn't know anything about real estate contracts or anything. So I helped some people purchase short-term rentals. And obviously that's why I moved here. So I started looking for short-term rentals. And at that time, everything was either completely out of my budget or the properties that I was looking at wouldn't have done well as a short-term rental. They probably would have done well as long-term rentals, but there wasn't really anything unique about them. So after honestly looking for if I had to guess, thinking back at anywhere between 4 to 6 months of looking, I decided to develop my first property. So my very first real estate investment was ground up development, from raw land to ground up. Yeah.
Drinking from
Yeah,
the fire
pretty
hose
just
right there.
yeah, just fed myself to the wolves immediately. But yeah, the one turned into two really quickly, two turned into four, brought on investor capital, and just this year alone, we're developing 24.
Damn, man. Nicely
Yeah,
done.
yeah,
That's a
yeah, yeah.
good little hockey stick. I like to hear, especially once you
Yeah.
get started, it's so addicting and you're like, this is a lot of fun. And so it sounds like
Yeah, and you see like I'm seeing how much fun everyone's having with the properties too. Like obviously you get like the onesie and twosie bad guests, but overall like just some really cool experiences that we're building with people. So it's
cool.
awesome.
Yeah, so let's dive deeper into short-term rentals. I mean, so what was it specifically that that original mentor that you had that relationship with, how did he sell short-term rentals to you? Why were you drawn to that asset?
The cash flow. I mean, like
Of course.
I was already reading on like take for instance like a long-term rental you would read it and it would say like you're in the green, you're good if you're cash flowing anywhere between $300 to $600 a month, like that's a good long-term rental. And like the cash flows I was seeing on some of his properties were like 3 4 5 $6,000 a month for relatively the same like purchase price, which now it's a little bit different obviously because everyone's in the market in getting into short-term rentals. But the cash flow was the one thing that really like opened my eyes to it. And just investing in sort of unique properties is really cool because there's sort of a built-in buffer in them, like where they rent better. And then I'm not going to say nothing's really recession proof, but they're a little bit more recession proof because there's sort of built-in exits where if they don't do well as short-term rentals, you can just sell them off as a really cool long-term rental or just sell them off to a couple or something.
Yep. And that was actually going to be one of my questions. The first stage of real estate is finding a deal. It's finding that property that you want to buy or develop. When you do your underwriting, I know, you have these crazy, I've seen some short-term rental guys, the numbers they throw out there. I'm just like, holy shit, you've got to be kidding me. You're going to make that per day. But
Yeah.
so you get your numbers for your short-term rentals nightlies. Do you also underwrite it with the backup plan as, I can rent it at 300 a night, or I can rent it out as a long-term stay for 2,000 a month or something like that?
Yeah, no, that's a phenomenal question. So before COVID, we would underwrite them as long-term rentals. And right now I mean, it's getting better with construction costs and everything, but some of the stuff we're doing, it would be like almost like a break-even number when it comes to renting them out long term. I would say the exit the exit is built in to sell them right now.
Mm-hmm.
Compared to some of them would do really well, but like some of the ones we're developing are like resort type communities of
Okay.
anywhere between like 6 to 12, like micro resorts of anywhere between like 6 to 12 cabins.
That
Those
would
probably wouldn't pencil out as long-term rentals, but I mean that's more like a business where we would sell it off all at once. But
yeah.
um yeah, no, that was definitely when I first started, that would be the backup plan was underwriting them as a long-term rental. But just how crazy construction costs and everything have gotten, like they still make sense as short-term rentals, but probably not as a long-term rental.
Yeah. No, I actually just got one of my self-storage facilities. We're looking to build it out, and we just got a bid back at $90 per square foot. I know that doesn't sound like a lot for a short-term rental, but for self-storage, I mean, it's literally just a
What's
frame and
what's
some
what's the
metal.
actual what's the normal number in self-storage for development usually?
I mean, pre-COVID, I never did development pre-COVID, but
Yeah,
I had heard that it was
yeah,
around 50.
yeah.
And
So
so
almost double.
yeah.
Yeah,
So I just that's to say I understand, construction costs have definitely taken a hit across the board.
yeah.
Um, you made one comment in there. You said community. That was one of my questions that I wanted to ask. You guys have great goals. You're trying to hit 300 developed cabins in a 3-year span, which is pretty quick, and you're doing it all in kind of the same area. So it sounds like you're not doing one-offs. You are building communities like developments for exclusively for short-term rentals. Is that right?
Yeah, so yeah, it's every single community that we're building is sort of like there's some sort of theme to it, whether it be an A-frame community, a log cabin community. We're doing like
Okay.
cottage
Okay.
style communities. We're playing
Okay.
around with tree houses, which are just
Western.
houses on stilts. But
Oh, that's
Western
cool.
North Carolina is really cool because there's a lot of mountain markets within an out. Like you go an hour, 45 minutes in a different direction, and you're in a different mountain market.
Yeah.
We're like I'm also looking into like northern Michigan, where like my home state. That because to get to 300, 400, 500 cabins, it can't just be all clustered together.
Right.
But yeah, the what I realized in the last couple of years was the best use of my time. There was to me there was no difference between looking at a 1 acre parcel of land or like looking at a 20 or 30 acre parcel. For the best use of my time driving out and looking at it, it was the same amount. For my engineer, for my GC, I mean, it was just adding extra cabins and bring like appointments and everything. It was practically the same amount of time.
Yeah.
So that's what I realized is like sticking to these like 6 to 12 cabin communities has been sort of like the sweet spot. And we're also looking, like you already mentioned it already. I'm not opposed to purchasing. I
Mhm.
just like to purchase like we're working on a 6 cab or a 7 cabin community right now, that comes with like 10 acres that has like room for future development. Same thing with self-storage where like there might be a value add if there's some like acreage attached to the self-storage facility. It's the same thing.
Mhm.
So that's how I plan on getting to that 300, 400, 500 cabins is investing in these different mountain markets that are within an hour and a half of each other, and then anywhere between 6 to 12 cabins at the same time. And obviously, you got to find a GC that is comfortable with taking up that type of work, because a lot of GCs can't handle that much work.
Yeah.
But I mean, we've teamed up with one of the best GCs in the city, so I don't really see any issue. I mean, they develop like the boutique hotels downtown, so.
Yeah. Yeah. Once you get a good team, man, things start to click. But getting that team, I'm pretty sure that's the
Especially
hardest part of
especially
everything.
coming out of COVID, like I guarantee like your team looks completely different than what it looked like before COVID.
Yep. Absolutely. So again, 300, 400 units, that's a lot. Finding locations, in my opinion, has to be the hardest part of short-term rentals because, I don't want to, go to some sub market and rent a short-term rental in like Auburn, Washington. People who aren't from Washington don't know that, but Auburn is just it's just someplace you don't want to do a short-term rental. So I'm sure you're very limited in terms of locations. What
Yeah.
is the criteria that you look for when you're looking to build, a 6 to 12 unit a community out there?
So I like to stay under 25 minutes drive to the city.
Okay.
What COVID did was, and this wasn't our strategy, we just did this because the city of Asheville itself actually doesn't allow for short-term rental. So all of our properties
Oh,
are in the
interesting.
county. Yeah, all of our properties are in the county. They're not in the city. But what COVID did was it pushed everyone from the metro markets and made them more comfortable driving into the city, but being a little bit further out from the city. Again, we didn't do that on purpose, but that helped us out a lot and sort of like solidified like our business model, like our thesis, right? The biggest investing criteria I look at is just access, especially when you're 12 units that can sleep anywhere between 4 to 8 people each unit. I mean, you're sending 20, 30 including a cleaning crew, you're sending 20, 30 cars up there a day.
Oh, right. Yeah.
So your
Interesting.
your access is going to be super important, but also it's important to the guest because a lot of times they're coming to the area at night. A lot of times they're coming into an area where they're not familiar with it. So you don't want your guests to be annoyed and driving 30 minutes up a gravel road before they even get to the property, right? That's going to freak them out. It's going to annoy them.
Yeah.
So we like to be off of like a double lane state maintained road if we could.
Hmm.
And if not, like one property that we're developing which is a property I was working on a couple of years back. That one we put in like maybe 100-meter driveway, but it was still off of a double lane state maintained road. There's a cabin community that we're doing 9 cabins on right now, or eventually going to do 9 cabins. We're starting with 6. We put in like an 1,100-foot road in, but from there it still comes off like a double lane state maintained road. So access is going to be the huge thing.
That makes a
And
lot of
then
sense because when I'm going to a place, I that is one thing I look for is I don't want to drive 100 miles on this dinky little dirt
yeah, yeah.
road in order to get to the cabin. So that
And
makes a lot of sense.
and we based off of like some like during COVID when everything was like exploding property values and everyone was it's definitely cooled down a little bit in terms of like price per like acre and just land in general, and there's some really good deals out there. We've sort of like I've played around with like different type of like communities, like design of communities. So like a cottage community does really well either in the mountains or just in the woods in general,
Mhm.
like a old school cottage type
Like
community.
log
So
cabin kind of thing.
yeah, yeah, or like maybe like if it's like covered in stone, but with like a
Okay.
really
Okay.
cool design.
Yep.
Log cabins will do well, and the cool thing about log cabins is they're a little bit mountain markets are a little bit less seasonal in general because people
Hmm.
like to travel in the winter as well to mountain markets. But log cabins in particular are very like less seasonal because like what's more iconic than like staying in a cabin in the woods in the winter, right?
Yeah.
And then so like what I've realized is like the uniqueness of the property helps with the seasonality of it is where during the winter the property becomes the attraction and where the property is an experience in itself. I say Instagrammable properties. And
Yeah.
then during the summer, the market becomes the attraction where people are just staying at the property.
Interesting.
Yeah,
That's something you would only learn if you were in the niche itself. So that's
right.
good insight there. I have like a secret desire to build a Hobbit house, long-term stay
Oh, we
rental.
have one
Like,
here. Someone did it.
ah,
Yeah, yeah,
that's awesome. I
yeah,
saw
yeah.
one. Somebody did one here in Washington, and I was just like, that is so cool.
It's
Um,
cool because you just like back it up to a side of a cliff and just dump dirt on it. And it's like you build a house and just dump. That's what they did and just put a whole bunch of grass over it essentially.
yeah, and they kind of come in prefab, kind of like dome-ish looking things.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
I
yeah.
thought that was pretty cool.
That's cool.
So are your communities gated? Or how much do you do in terms of the non-structure in terms of the landscaping?
Yeah, we keep it very minimal, man. Just to maintain that feel of being in the woods. And it obviously just helps our bottom line and just helps with construction costs. Some really cool amenities. I'm playing around with the idea of a gated community because it makes it feel more exclusive, even if it has 6 cabins. Because like
Mhm.
honestly, putting up a gate and like an automated gate's really not that expensive. Some of the things that we add is like adding like disc golf is really cool, like a couple baskets for
Oh yeah,
guests.
because that's just a
Very
little
very
thing you put in
cheap.
the ground. Yep.
People love that. And just like grading depending on how big the land is, grading some like hiking trails throughout as well. Even
Okay.
if it's like if you have like we just purchased 15 acres, so putting some hiking trails through has been really cool just for people to take maybe a 10-15 minute walk in the morning or afternoon or something.
Yep. And so
Yeah.
are I mean, you've mentioned mountain communities quite a bit. Do you look for things like lakes, views? Do you require views, or is it just anywhere that is 25 minutes into nature is a good opportunity to build something?
Yeah, and that's the hard part is like I would love to get mountain views, but honestly the access to me is more important than the mountain views. Because just from managing like starting 5 years ago, just managing the first couple where like the access was a little less like here's the issue with mountain views. You have to drive off a mountain to get to
It's a
mountain
view.
views. And sometimes that road is not the it's some could be a little rough sometimes.
Right.
So that's why I would go with access over mountain views. But no, I mean our first three properties have the best mountain views you could ask for.
Perfect, man. I love it. I did check the clock. We are rounding out the time, so I do have to
Oh yeah.
move us forward. But before we do, I want to ask one last question. What you think the future of short-term rentals is? The reason I ask this is I've had tons of people, not tons, I've had a handful of people on the show who do short-term rentals, and it seems like the popularity in buying short-term rentals from kind of the mom and pop person who just they don't have a business like you. It's just Joe and Sue go out and buy a short-term rental, and so there's being flooded. Pretty much every market is being flooded with short-term rentals. So what do you see for the future of short-term rentals, especially with Airbnb having such a monopoly on the access on people, reserving the rental itself? And I guess that's where I'm going to leave that. What do you see the future of it?
Yeah, so I'm actually so I'm a bigger pockets writer for their short-term rental content, and I feel like I'm the only one who's actually pushing out content right now on the short-term rental side when it comes to blog posts. I think especially with us going through this market correction right now, I think those people are going to get weeded out really quickly. It's already happening. If you look at the MLS, like very unique properties are being listed that were already short-term rentals by people who thought it was cool to do it, but didn't really know what they were doing, didn't really have didn't treat it as a business. So that's number one. Number two, the future short-term rentals have been around forever. Just back in the day, you had to pick up a phone to book a property compared to Airbnb and VRBO, where you had to do it through your phone. So short-term rentals have been around forever. That's not going to change. Just the way we book them is going to change. What I see in the next 5 years happening, and it's already happening now, is people are stepping away from Airbnb and VRBO, and they're more they're focusing on a direct booking model, which is it's almost like come full circle where that's what it used to be. But more and more professionals are building out their own websites. They're building their own properties, but building out their own personal websites where they can push traffic to compared to relying just on Airbnb and VRBO. And I say that in the course that I put together is that Airbnb and VRBO should just be looked at as a marketing arm of your business. It's not where your property should live. It's not where your business should live.
Yep. Yep. That is perfect segue. I'm going to move us on because I feel like this is a good time. So we're jumping in the quick question round. This is where I ask questions. You give quick answers. They don't have to be too quick, so don't feel pressure, but it always starts with books. I'm a big bookie, so give me 2 recommendations, one for general life wisdom and one for real estate specific.
Real estate specific, and it might be a little bit too general for real estate, but The Creature from Jekyll Island by G.
Interesting.
Edward Griffith. Yeah, that's been a book I've seen in the hands of a lot of very successful people. Just understanding how our financial system works is super important. I had originally read it as like a conspiracy book, but I started seeing it in a lot of hands of like real estate investors, and a lot of real estate investors that I look up to were including Robert Kiyosaki, who was like in hand, like taking pictures with the book and recommending it. So that would be the most impactful book I've probably ever read. And then the second one, which would just be general, would be The One Thing by Gary Keller and Jay Papasan. It's a picture book essentially, and I mean that's super helpful. But that putting a structure to your whole life and business is, and it's a 200-page book. It's easy.
Yeah. No, the One Thing is a great book. I've never actually heard. I feel like I've heard of it before, but I don't know what it's about. So what is The Creature from Jekyll Island? What is that about?
It's the history on the Federal Reserve on just how our money system works.
Oh, okay.
Um,
Okay.
which is it was really I'd read that book prior to COVID, so just seeing a lot of things play out the way they did with how much money we printed was it was just really cool to see that book sort of play out again,
Yeah.
because it covers like what happened in 2008 and 9, and it essentially happened again with like how much money we printed. It was just a really cool general book on how our Federal Reserve System works. I don't really believe there's a chapter at the end of the book that's gets a little weird and a little conspiracy theory, a little
Yeah.
aluminum tinfoil hat. But outside of that, it's a really good book.
I'm gonna have to pick that one up because I know very little about the Fed Reserve and everything that goes on there. So I should probably know more. Good recommendation. Moving us on. This one is for your younger self. So if you could go back to the Alex who was just getting out of the Marine Corps, or maybe just getting into the Marine Corps, go back to him, look him in the eye, give him one piece of advice moving forward.
Yeah, and it's what the one thing teaches is like sit down every day, figure out what your one thing needs to be, and work on it for 3 to 4 hours a day. It doesn't matter how busy you are. When I was in the military, my one thing, without realizing it, was like just going to school and online. But yeah, sit down for 3 to 4 hours a day. No, even if you have a full-time job, which I was working 60, 70 hours a week in the military. Yeah, it's like set aside 3 hours a day to work on something, even if it's an hour, but 3 hours more preferable.
Yep. Yep. That is it's good advice. I love it. Moving on, this next one is your strength. We are all gifted with strengths that we uniquely can give to this world. So what is your Superman strength?
I'm really good at identifying like the highest and best use for like a piece of property or a piece of land. Is what I've realized the last like 5 years is I mean, it just comes with experience, but like, and mistakes, but like, I'm really good at looking at a piece of property either in person or just say like through the web, through the MLS, and figuring out like where the value add needs to be. And I think that just comes from just reading so many real estate books.
Yep. Yeah, I mean that is a super useful and valuable skill because some people will see a trashy lot with overgrown weeds and a crappy roof, and they're like, "I'm never going to buy that house." But you bring a flipper there, they're going to be like, "That is $200,000 in profit right there." So
Yeah, that's how we purchased 15 acres that had like literally a rundown single wide and a house that was like filled to the top with trash. And like that land was without that
oops, looks like Alex is running in.
125,000 and just tore those.
All right, it sounds like you're running into a little bit of technical issues there. I'm going to pause this recording. All right, we're back. Technical issues solved. Moving on to the next question. This is for tools. Tools are the backbone of every business. So what is one tool you could not live without?
Right now, it's a company called StayFi, and I've been recommending them for the last year. So it's a little device that plugs into the back of your router. This is for my properties, and it does an email capture. So like people have to sign into the Wi-Fi to get access to the Wi-Fi, and that way we capture all the guests' emails and then we remarket to them outside of Airbnb and VRBO. So that sort of
Wow.
plays into the strategy I was talking about earlier about direct booking.
Right.
We can. There's nothing against Airbnb or anything that you can't take a guest off the platform if they're trying to book with you, but after they stay with you, it's fair game.
Yeah. No, that's super smart. I've never heard of that. That's pretty unique.
And it's cheap. It's like $6 a month to do it.
No.
Yeah.
Easy.
Yeah.
All right. Next one is for your mentors. None of us are islands. We are all here together. We learn from everybody that we have contact with. So, who is one mentor that has contributed to your career, and what did they do to kind of catapult you along?
So I'm going to give two because there's two in my life right now. One is Paul Moore with Wellings Capital. He sort of took me under his wing last year, and sort of really taught me the ropes of like just high level capital raising essentially. And the second one is my one-on-one, which is Greg Dickerson from Dickerson International. He is the backbone of what I currently do.
Perfect, man. I love it.
Yeah.
All right. And that leads us to the very last question. This one is for the listeners. You've given us a lot of good advice. I'm sure people want to reach out. And then I know you have a course that you also offer. So why don't you say the best way to reach out and what they can see once they get to that website?
Yeah, best way to reach out is either through LinkedIn or just checking out what I'm doing on my personal site. My personal site's alexjarbo.com. Spent the last 6 months on and off sort of putting together a course for short-term rental development specifically. I essentially created the course that I wish I had when I started 6 years ago. If I would have had this course, I probably would have saved 200 grand, 300 grand by now. But yeah, I created the course that I wish I had. There's a management piece to it. So how to put together the right team for development, a piece of what we talked about today on how to identify land and how to underwrite properties. And then there's a management piece on how to put together your management team, how to manage the properties, templates, everything, group coaching, everything's in there.
Awesome. So that is at alexjarbo.com, alexjarbo.com. So if you guys want to get involved with that, go ahead and click the little more in the description. It'll pull down the full description, and in there you can find Alex's link. So Alex, that wraps it up. I really appreciate you hopping on the show.
Awesome. Appreciate you for having me on.
Absolutely. For everybody who's here with us today, thank you guys for showing up. You are the reason we do this. So if you guys have any questions whatsoever, reach out to me, Gabe at therealestateinvestingclub.com. Other than that, I hope you guys have an absolutely fantastic week. Keep rocking real estate, and I look forward to seeing you on the next episode. Thank you for joining us for another episode of the Real Estate Investing Club. I hope you guys enjoyed the episode as much as I enjoyed putting it on, and we're able to pull some actionable advice that you can apply in your own investing today in the field. Before you go, we have a gift for you. If you're a new investor looking to get started or an established investor looking to take your investing to the next level, I've created an ebook just for you, available on our website. This ebook will cover how I was able to create both active and passive income in real estate with very little money to start with. In it, I will address the 3 most often cited obstacles new and veteran investors run into by showing you how to find deals that are actually deals, how to finance a deal with little to no money down, and how to exit those deals for maximum value. And if you get the ebook today, I am throwing in a bundle of bonuses, 7 of them to be exact. The first one will be the off-market lead generation blueprint, which will take you through the exact systems and processes we use to generate off-market leads like clockwork, which is the most important skill when it comes to creating wealth in real estate. The second bonus is the A to Z REI systems and vendors guide, which will allow you to peek under the hood of our business and see the exact tools, systems, and even the vendors we use to see the success that we do. And the third bonus is the top 100 best performing keywords pack, which will give you the exact keywords we use to target motivated sellers online using PPC ads. The fourth bonus is our contracts bundle for wholesaling and renting real estate, which will give you access to all the contracts we use in the field to execute all different types of transactions. After that is the Investors Quick Analysis Calculator and Offer Tool, which will allow you to quickly calculate whether a deal is an actual deal and will allow you to create an offer automatically from those calculations. This is a lot of bonuses that I said. I'm just going to keep going down the list. Number 6 is the Investor's Daily Success Tracker, which is a tracker you can use to ensure you are taking the right actions day in and day out to reach your financial goals in real estate. And the last bonus is the Wholesaler's Template for quick assignment cash, which will give you the templates we use to present our wholesale deals professionally and efficiently to our buyers. Whew, that is a bundle. So it's a mouthful. You get all of those bonuses for free when you download the ebook. All we charge is the admin cost to run the show. So if you're interested in the ebook and the bonus bundle, head on over to the website at therealestateinvestingclub.com. Click on Get the Ebook Bundle at the top of the page to take advantage of that deal. And with that said, I hope you have a fantastic day, an even better week. Keep rocking real estate, and I look forward to seeing you on the next episode.